Welcome back to Sonic Advance 2. So, it's time to go over the extras of the game, which is, frankly, mostly just the game's extra animations, because that's what the game does best. But first off, we did unlock Amy at the end of, well, everything, really. We unlocked a bunch of other things, too, though. Basically, like I said, if you beat the game as everybody but have Sonic with Chaos Emeralds, that's how you get the EX stage. However, if you beat the game with any one character with 7 Chaos Emeralds, you unlock Tiny Chao Garden. With 2 characters, that's the sound test. When you beat the game with 3 characters with 7 Emeralds, that's boss attack. And yeah, Amy is your reward for all 4 characters with all Chaos Emeralds. It is a lot to get Amy. Admittedly though, I did really find her fun to play as. She's a lot like Sonic in that she doesn't have a flight option. But if you're familiar with her gameplay style from Sonic Advance 1, you might be surprised to find that she just jumps normally in this game, which, if I'd ever unlocked Amy as a kid, I would have been happy about, because I didn't like playing as her in Advance 1 at that time. I've come around to her style a little more lately. I played an entire hack of Sonic 1, but with Amy, as she plays in Advance 1, and it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. Yeah, she's a pretty speedy character. She has a so-so forward trick, pretty good upwards trick, and of course, her B-button move is that she has her Pico Pico hammer, so you are still able to use the hammer, it's just not her bread and butter like it is in Advance 1. So once again I reiterate, this game's animations are great, and I like Amy's animations in general. I'd say her stage intro animation is my favorite, except I feel like I've said that about every single character in this game. And I wouldn't say it again about all those characters, so I think they're all just my favorite. They're all number 1. So are any of them really number 1? That's ridiculous, of course they are. But yeah, I do have a full playthrough of Sonic Advance 2 as Amy on my non-com channel, so if you want to see how she plays through the entire game, you can look that up. I'm not just playing this game over again with commentary just for Amy, though. I do find her fun, but I don't know if I have anything else to say about this game. Can I complain about the screen size anymore? I don't know if I can. As a note, Amy can access special stages. There's no real reason to, though. If you get all the Chaos Emeralds with her, nothing happens. There's no final reward for doing that, so if you do that, you're just either wasting your time or doing it for posterity, if you happen to be doing a non-com run of it. So yeah, like I said, a lot of this bonus video just exists to showcase some of the extra animations of this game. For one, characters all have different Act 2 victory animations. You never got to see any of those, because I always got the Chaos Emeralds on Act 2. But yeah, no, they bothered giving characters extra animations. Why did they do that? Because this game looks great, and this just continues the game looking great. It's not gonna settle for just one victory animation. Oh no, you get a bunch. So during Sonic's playthrough, I did mention that he's got a B-button move that I don't care for. He's got a slide that he can use that, I don't know, I feel like it kills my momentum, so I don't really like using it. He does also have a mid-air version of it too. Again, maybe I'm just not good with this game's tech, but I don't really see how it would be that useful. There are a couple of spots in this game where going directly down won't kill you, but I don't know, other than for speed reasons, that and the downwards tricks I don't see much use of. Other characters though, like I said, Amy gets her hammer. She also has a slide which I like better than Sonic's. I still wouldn't use it on a regular basis, but like, it's surprisingly good for a faceplant. You already know what Cream does. She has a Chao. She's going to use cheese. You can use that anytime for smaller enemies than bosses, and frankly, I feel like the law probably bans that, because if Eggman doesn't have a chance against this, who else does? Tails has a tail swipe technique. And Knuckles can punch, which might be useful in motion, but you can also do it standing still. I don't know why you would ever use any of the characters standing still B-button moves. I do have to wonder why those are there. I guess it'd just be weird if there were B-button moves, but they did nothing if you were standing still. I don't know, whatever. There's also no looking up in this game. Instead, if you hold the up button, you actually get an idle animation for each character. For some reason, Knuckles' idle animation can actually do damage. I cannot possibly think of a use case for this. And of course, everybody's got a different ending animation as well. Like I said, Cream's the only one who's joined by another character in her ending, other than, you know, the flurry of animals. Vanilla the Rabbit is the only two-legged person to join a playable character in this game. Cream's mom has gotta be there. Her daughter did very well and maxed out the points. Her mom should be proud. And lastly, we have the other extras, so I've actually got another thing to explain during this, though we'll do that during Tiny Chao Garden. First, however, we're going to sound test. In the last game, Amy with maracas was in sound test. In this game, we've got Cream on Timbrel, which, personally, I would have assumed Cream would be on the tambourine, but, I guess not. I could show off boss attack, but I feel like that's self-explanatory, and frankly, I don't want to fight more bosses in this game, so, just know that if you want to fight all the bosses in a row, you can do that. I don't know why you'd want that, but you can. Okay, so, here's Tiny Chao Garden. It looks pretty much exactly like Tiny Chao Garden from Sonic Advance 1. I think the only real difference here is one of the minigames is different. We got like a jumping minigame instead. So, we'll bring Punch 3 into the world, and you can just watch me go through this while I explain a little something else. So, in the Sonic Advance 1 LP, I did not get any rings from the actual stages, which I had kind of assumed was due to a glitch that I was familiar with. Sonic Advance 1 has this issue where if you wipe the save game data, it actually just won't let characters collect rings for the Tiny Chao Garden anymore. I assumed that was just a problem I was having for reasons I couldn't quite understand. But here's the thing, I actually discovered it was for a completely separate reason. Which makes sense, you know, I don't see why a save file glitch would apply to a ROM file. It makes its own battery, so it shouldn't run into the same types of problems. No, my problem was I actually had an incorrect save type. So I don't know too much about save types myself. So I think in almost any situation, a save type is gonna be Flash 128K. That's usually what VBA is set to, and I usually don't have any problems with that. It can, however, be Flash 64K as well. So, the problem was, the Sonic Advance games are actually Flash 64K. Which I discovered because I actually had a completely separate issue at the start of this playthrough, which is, for reasons unknown, everything was unlocked even though it was a fresh battery file. So I looked it up, and apparently, all 3 Sonic Advance games actually have a failsafe if it can't load the battery correctly. Now, in most cases that will just mean that your GBA cartridges run dry, and you can't save anymore. It's a problem many people have run into in things like Pokémon. However, the Sonic Advance games have a failsafe. If for whatever reason, the game is unable to load a battery, it will actually automatically unlock every stage and all of the characters in the game. Which is honestly a really cool function. Like, most games can't and won't pull that off. Like, obviously for an RPG, you can't really do that because, I mean, like, what would you provide with a full save file in an RPG? Like, what are you gonna unlock every Pokémon? That still doesn't get to the heart of a matter if you can't save the game. But you know, it's also not a thing I'm familiar with happening in many other platformers either. But the Sonic Advance games are different. So yeah, the funny thing is, if you still own a physical copy of any of the Advance games, you might just be able to put it into a Game Boy Advance if you happen to have one, and be able to play the games. And I don't know about you, but the battery dying for a Game Boy Advance cartridge is actually better at the game than I was. Cause yeah, I definitely didn't unlock everything. So yeah, if for any reason I wanted to casually play Sonic Advance 2, and I still had a functioning Game Boy Advance with buttons that were pressable, I guess I could go do that right now. I can't, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't. We're at the end of this. I'm good. So yeah, that's the extras. Like I said, these are mostly just here because the animations are real cool. If there's one thing you can take from Sonic Advance 2, it's that it looks really, really good.